It was the third year Julian squeezed into my rented apartment, and the torrential rain flooded our place. I leaned on his shoulder, miserable. He said his heart ached for me, then turned around and donated $100 million without blinking. I'd heard rumors of his illustrious background and lavish spending, but that was a Julian I didn't recognize. A group of the city elite joked, "So many heiresses throwing themselves at you, and you just had to play with a poor girl?" Julian narrowed his charming eyes, a faint smile playing on his lips. "My darling is saving up to buy a ring, working 3 jobs a day. Can they say that?" Then someone suddenly asked, "What if that girl is serious about proposing? Didn't you get engaged to the Sterlings?" "Just having some fun. Are you really going to marry her?" Julian paused, then his tone turned resolute. "Besides, Sarah will never know any of this." He didn't know I was standing right outside the door. I had rushed through the pouring rain to find Julian. My lab coat was soaked through, sticking to my skin like ice, chilling me to the bone. But it wasn't as biting as those words, which pierced my heart like icicles, making me shiver with dread. Inside the private room, the conversation continued. "Oh, man, she'd be furious if she knew. 3 years of keeping a male escort, and he casually donates $100 million? Even TV dramas aren't this dramatic, haha." "So, Julian, you mean you're going to turn her down when she proposes?" Julian raised a hand, signaling a waiter to open a bottle, and spoke carelessly. "Turn her down? Why? I'm not tired of playing yet." He finished, then pinched his chin, lost in thought. After a moment, he grinned mockingly, his eye-tail mole appearing even brighter. "What do you guys think? Should I try scaring her with a breakup? After all, I'm making next to nothing. Wouldn't want to hold her back, right, Julia? And, playing like this, aren't you afraid she'll actually leave? You don't know her. How many times has offered to break up? And how many times has Sarah come crying back, begging to get back together?" Julian was clearly pleased by this, lazily raising his wine glass in their direction. The recipient, flattered, toasted him back. At that moment, someone scoffed, "She's so pathetic, like a stray dog without any dignity. She's practically begging to be exploited." Outside the private room, I couldn't listen anymore. My legs felt like lead as I stumbled away, my spirit crushed. I fumbled in my pocket, and when my hand touched the ring box, I snatched it out as if burned. Behind me, the lively private room gradually fell silent. Julian leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine glass, his face expressionless as he glared sideways at the person who had just spoken. Everyone cautiously eyed his expression. They were all sons of the city elite, but there were still hierarchies. The Jiang family spanned the political, business, and military sectors in Capital City, and Julian was the heir personally groomed by the old man. No one dared provoke this young master. "Julian, I was drunk. I shouldn't have talked about your girlfriend like that." The person who had spoken raised a hand and slapped himself hard repeatedly, apologizing profusely. Someone nearby intervened. "Idiot, don't you know our sister-in-law is an esteemed researcher at Capital City University in the University District? A professional. Who are you to speak of her?" Only when the man's face was swollen did Julian speak lightly. "All right. Are you from the Wang family? The one that owns a pharmaceutical company?" Wang Ling nodded frantically. Julian leaned forward, one hand carelessly propping his cheek, the other slightly raising his wine glass. "The University District's recent research." "Julian, I understand. Thank why. Oh, you for giving me the chance to show respect to your girlfriend." Before he could finish, Wang Ling quickly cut in. I returned home in a daze. The words I had just heard echoed in my mind. That girl is truly naive. Being deceived is probably her fate. 3 years ago, Julian lost big on a gamble and pretended to be a male escort at a karaoke bar. The previous girls who got involved all knew what was going on, but she actually believed him. I was too foolish. I didn't see through his holy sweater that was actually the latest Balenciaga design. I didn't realize that a casual silver watch was a Richard Mille worth millions. He said his gambling-addicted father and sick mother reminded him of his past self. Looking at that face, like a handsome boy from a Japanese drama, full of tenderness. But I didn't know he was just weighing his options. Tisk, idiot, how can you believe something so ridiculous? I exhausted every effort to persuade him to turn over a new leaf. I even helped him find a legitimate job. He was only a research assistant, making just a few thousand a month. Yet, I willingly took out $2,000 to buy him a decent suit. Meanwhile, I wore the same trench coat for 3 years. And he? He would always narrow his charming eyes, smiling carelessly. "Pretty sister, you're so good to me, I'll have to repay you properly." Saying that, he would hug and entangle me. A 20-year-old young man, full of inexhaustible energy, relentless. The rented old apartment building had poor soundproofing. The more I bit my lip, trying not to make a sound, the more he would try every trick in the book. Every time, I would be forced to beg softly, over and over, before he would finally relent. He was handsome, loved to act charming, and enjoyed cooking. I truly believed we would be inseparable forever. I even worked 2 extra jobs after deciding to propose, saving money for a ring. On th. E-way home, I passed the subway station Julian usually used. Many people were gathered at the entrance. Firefighters, medical personnel, people who had just been rescued. I stopped. My phone received a message. Sister, my phone fell in the water, just got it fixed. Brought you a little cake, coming over now. The message was followed by an emoji, a line drawing of a little puppy holding a heart. The caption read, "Little puppy loves you the most." I was momentarily dazed. After a long time, I typed, "I'm at the subway station, Metro Center Station, exit A." Not long after, Julian appeared around the corner. The young man was tall and slender, with fair skin and bright lips. A simple white t-shirt, gray hoodie, and dark blue jeans, he somehow wore them with the aura of a celebrity. He was striking, and many people around were quietly watching him. "Didn't I tell you to stay home?" He chided me, taking off his jacket and draping it over me. "Knowing you get sick easily, and you still ran out in the rain." The familiar, faint scent of green pine needles instantly enveloped me, making my nose ache. "I thought you were dead inside." I pointed at the subway entrance. I expected to be hysterical, but in reality, my throat felt like a broken hairdryer. Hoarse, choked, exhausted. "You said you were on the subway, and then there was no news." The trending topic said the subway was flooded. I was so scared, I walked for a long time through the rain to get here. Someone stopped me, wouldn't let me go down. I said I had to, my boyfriend was still inside, if he was going to die, I would die with him. "Julian," I looked up, my red-rimmed eyes staring straight at him. "When I was worried sick about you, almost losing my life, where were you?" He lowered his long, dark lashes, hiding those charming eyes that were always smiling, hiding the turbulent waves within them. Perhaps he stakes of his game had exceeded his expectations. Or perhaps he was laughing inwardly, thinking how this foolish girl would actually do something like this. He just turned his face away, replying with a light, dismissive smile, "Of course, I was on my way to buy sister a cake." "No, you weren't. You were at a gathering with a bunch of the city elite, indulging in pleasure. You were stepping on my heart, mocking it mercilessly." Before I could press further, he turned his back and squatted down. "Get on. Let's go home first, don't actually get sick." Julian carried me on his back like that, wading through muddy water that reached his waist. His light, dismissive words echoed in my ears. "Go home? Julian, our home is gone." Our rented apartment was on the upper floor of an old neighborhood. A 90-year-old building with terrible drainage. Pushing open the door, the place was a mess. In a meter-deep murky water, Julian's couple's mugs and couple's slippers floated, along with the carefully made photo wall. In those photos, we were laughing on my birthday, smearing cake on each other's faces, and holding sparklers shaped like hearts on the holidays. So many romantic moments, blurred and distorted by the water damage. "It's ruined, I can't look at it." Julian put me down on the shoe cabinet, picked up the photos one by one, his brows furrowing deeper and deeper. I opened my mouth, wanting to ask, just playing around, "Is it worth feeling regret over these moments?" But in the end, I just said simply, "It's gone, it's gone." It's not like they were that important anyway. Not important? If these aren't important, what is? Julian stared at me in confusion, his eyes looking a little hurt. Was it because they were trophies from deceiving a girl for 3 years, that they were particularly important to you? I squeezed my palms together, my lips pressed tight, and ultimately didn't ask. The apartment was flooded and uninhabitable. Nearby hotels were overcrowded, and the prices were incredibly high. Again, we were told it would cost $4,000 a night. So we just huddled with the crowd in the lobby, sitting against the corner, trying to figure out where to go next. 2 young women next to us were chatting. My God, what if a rich second generation suddenly showed up, fell inexplicably in love with me, and then gave me $1 million? Don't even mention it. Did you see the trending topic? I'm so jealous of Chloe Sterling. Not only is she an A-list actress, a city elite, her fiancé also casually donated $100 million. So generous it's inhuman. That $100 million, her fiancé donated it under both their names. That's gotta be true love. Behind me, Julian's muscles suddenly tensed. Then he leaned close to my ear, acting charming and clingy. Sister, 4,000 is 4,000, shouldn't we stay? The young man's warm body behind me trembled slightly. It was already late autumn, he had given me his jacket and was only wearing a t-shirt. Before, I would have definitely felt sorry for him, taking out 2/3 of my salary just to spoil him. But now, I twisted his leg lightly, my voice flat. You brought this on yourself. You deserve it. I paused, then, in a joking tone, said dismissively, if you were like her fiancé, donating 100 million like it's nothing, would I have to live such a hard life? After saying that, I started coughing uncontrollably. Julian gently patted my back. After I had calmed down, he lowered his head, lightly bit my ear, and said in a soft, sweet voice, I get it. Sister thinks I'm too poor. It's my fault, I couldn't afford to let sister live in a mansion. I caused sister to get sick, shiver in the cold, and couldn't even find a place to stay. It's all my fault. I thought I wouldn't cry. But hearing him say that with such new an emotion, saying he couldn't give me a better life. My eyes still stung with unshed tears. Like he had done for the past 1,000-odd days, he watched me being worn down by life, suffering for his sake. Then he'd say a few insincere sweet words. Perhaps, deep down, he even enjoyed it. Yes, it's all your fault. I cut him off. Julian stopped his rambling, his face a blank slate. Yes, in the past, if he said that, I would have comforted him. Don't blame yourself, I'm heartbroken, okay? But now, I turned around, looked him in the eye, and said word by word, otherwise? You make next to nothing, you can't even afford a bathroom in Capital City. Am I supposed to waste my whole life on you? You didn't actually think I wanted to live in a rented apartment with you forever, did you? Julian was stunned. After a long pause, he raised his hand with a stiff smile. I could work overtime, I didn't want to hear more lies. I pushed him away. Just kidding. Out of the corner of my eye, Julian's tensed shoulders visibly relaxed. Finally, we decided to make do in an office at Capital City University. Several colleagues were also stranded there, unable to go home. We all gathered for some shared takeout. When they saw me bring someone in, everyone's eyes widened. Wow, Megan, this is your sweetie? Didn't realize he looked like a celebrity. Ha ha ha, is that colleague completely heartbroken now? Sarah, Julian, come sit. We don't have chopsticks, use test tubes for now. As soon as we sat down, pairs of gossipy eyes stared at us, asking how we met. I remained mostly silent. Julian, however, put his arm around my shoulder affectionately and openly showed off our relationship. Yeah, Sarah doesn't like cooking, so I do all the cooking at home. She loves it. You're really something, man. Our reserved campus beauty, so many guys chased her and failed, but you, an outsider, charmed her. Sarah gave up the chance to study at GIAS for you. That's a top-tier international research institute. Julian looked momentarily surprised, turning his head to look at me. Really? She didn't say. I nodded faintly. I thought about quickly writing an email later to see if I could still salvage the opportunity. The atmosphere was very harmonious until someone asked, Sarah, Julian, when are you two getting married? Julian, who had been so talkative, suddenly fell silent. I paused, then also spoke with a smile. Julian, when are you going to marry me? Everyone's gaze focused on him. Julian smiled casually, but the hand around my shoulder tightened unconsciously. You, who were getting engaged to someone else next week. You, who planned to pretend to break up when I proposed. How would you answer? His Adam's apple bobbed. Naturally, before he could finish, the door was kicked open. Hurry up and help me. I rushed back through the rain just to bring you guys something to eat. Megan, a fellow researcher, came from a wealthy family. Before, it was a photo she posted on social media that made me discover Julian. The moment she looked up, she was clearly stunned. She opened her mouth to say something, but Julian's sudden cough stopped her. 7 that night, the water on the streets receded a bit. People gradually dispersed, leaving just the two of us. In my office, Julian walked around with one hand in his pocket, looking this way and that. Finally, he stopped in front of the wall filled with trophies for a long time, speaking softly, you shouldn't have rejected that GIAS opportunity. I sat behind the desk, looking at emails on my computer. GIAS quickly replied, saying they would welcome me anytime. While replying with a thank you note, I calmly replied to him, you don't need to feel guilty about this. I didn't tell you because it was my choice. Life is short, 100 years. Rather than spending 3 years in a strange place, I'd rather have spent 3 years together, day and night. But you, I looked up and asked flatly, so, are you saying you also think it wasn't worth it? The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted it. No matter how he answered, it would be a sharp blade stabbing at my heart. If he said it was worth it, that was deception. If he said it wasn't worth it, it would make the 3 years of genuine affection seem too cheap. It's just a pity. Julian narrowed his charming eyes, walked over with long strides, and effortlessly took off his t-shirt with one hand. It's a pity my wife isn't a GIS researcher. After saying that, he sat on my desk and pulled my hand towards his abs. His voice was exceptionally low and magnetic, like a siren dragging someone underwater. Sister, let's not talk about these boring things. Don't you want to have some fun with your little puppy in your own office? Frankly, Julian was incredibly handsome, and his physique was impeccable. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, his jeans were cinched by a belt, hiding the view below his V-lines. But I pulled my hand back and casually grabbed a wet wipe to clean it. I commented flatly, I shouldn't have persuaded you to turn over a new leaf back then. You'd be a great hustler. Julian used every trick in the book to entice me, but my eyes didn't leave the computer for a second. He didn't know I was looking at his fiancée's social media. April 1st, April Fool's Day, I lied to Julian, how about we get married? Next month. He had just woken up, pressed my head into his arms, and mumbled back, playing a trick on your little puppy again? That night, he held his fiancée's hand and took her back to the family estate to meet his family. Since they were childhood sweethearts, everything went smoothly. His fiancée posted, JY, we have a long future ahead of us. April 5th, I went to pick out a wedding ring. It was from DR, they only sell one to each person, very romantic. It was a bit expensive, 100,000. I'll just take on 2 more freelance jobs. That day, he attended a charity auction with his fiancée and bought a jade bracelet for 30 million just to make her smile. April 7th, working 3 jobs at the same time was too tiring. Thankfully, Julian's massage skills were decent. I really wanted to marry Julian. April 10th, he took his fiancée on a private jet to Bali to see the ocean. April 15th, April 18th, April 25th, I bought the wedding ring. Next Monday, I'll propose. Next Monday, just the day before his engagement. Coming back to my senses, I looked up. Julian had resignedly put on his clothes, and like a dutiful spouse, opened the folding bed, making it up. At that moment, I finally felt it. The lies, like knives, were slicing my heart piece by piece, until it bled profusely, until I couldn't breathe. I swallowed the dryness in my throat, lowered my head, and continued typing my email reply. I will arrive in San Francisco on May 2nd. The date I chose was the day of his engagement. Julian, you have no future with me. It doesn't matter, I don't have one with you either. That night, I truly came down with a high fever. Julian bought medicine, boiled water, and took my temperature. He didn't sleep all night. Until dawn, a phone call came through. Perhaps he was too tired, but he accidentally answered instead of hanging up. Brother Julian, why aren't you here yet? A young woman's voice, reserved but with a hint of romantic playfulness, stopped abruptly. Julian quickly hung up the phone, looked at me, still asleep, and let out a sigh of relief. He leaned down and kissed my forehead. After the door closed, I opened my eyes and turned on my phone. Have a client meetin'. Today, medicine is on the table, water is freshly heated, sister, be sure to take them. What was so important that he had to leave even though I was sick? That afternoon, I found out. In a mansion, beneath a crystal chandelier, beside a 2-meter-high luxury cake, stood a Julian I didn't recognize. He wore a crisp iron gray suit, his usually messy hair combed back, revealing a full, smooth forehead. Gone was the boyishness he had with me, replaced by an undeniable air of nobility and a distant aloofness. Beside him, a refined woman in a pale yellow formal dress affectionately held his arm. Chloe, it's your birthday, Julian has to give you a kiss, right? Kiss her, kiss her. The woman's bridesmaids cheered. Julian lowered his gaze, meeting the woman's shimmering eyes. He smiled slightly, took a sip of wine, and leaned down to kiss her. A passionate, lingering kiss. When they pulled apart, a silver thread connected their lips. Megan sent me a message. Sarah, I just want you to wake up as soon as possible. The Jiang family is not someone you want to mess with. Did you see the video? I saw it and had to quickly retract it. I replied, I saw it. Thank you for taking such a big risk to tell me. No problem, no problem. Sarah, you're great. Julian isn't worthy of you. I took a wet wipe from the drawer and wiped my forehead. The touch brought a stinging pain to my skin. The next few days, I was busy nonstop, handling the aftermath and handover of the Capital City University project. preparing for my trip to San Francisco. Julian also frequently left early and returned late, accompanying a girl to pick out a wedding dress, choose an engagement ring. Until the morning before his engagement, I opened my eyes. Julian was sitting on the sofa, staring down at the velvet box containing the ring, his brows furrowed in thought. Hearing me stir in bed, he pretended to find the box in my pocket. Raising an eyebrow, he asked with a smile, "Sister, what is this?" Today was the day I originally planned to propose. It was also the day he planned to pretend to break up. I changed out of my pajamas and uttered 2 words. Trash. Putting on my shirt and turning around, I saw Julian's face was incredibly pale, but he quickly composed himself, casually putting the ring box back in my trench coat pocket. Then he walked over and familiarized himself with helping me put it on. Until noon, I didn't send him a single message. But I received a message from Julian, "Sister, want to grab lunch this afternoon?" At 2 p.m., I still hadn't replied. He called, I hung up. Busy. What time are you off today? I'll come pick you up, miss you. Very late. Little puppy is wrong. JPG, putting away my phone, I pushed the ring box across the table. Sitting opposite me was a male teacher from the same university. Is 30,000 okay? Alipay or WeChat Pay? Afterward, Julian's messages came in one after another. I turned off my phone and didn't look anymore. It was past midnight, a torrential rain started, and I took a taxi back to my hotel. Since it was his engagement day, I assumed Julian would definitely be back at the family estate. But as I opened the door, a hand grabbed me and pulled me inside, forcefully pressing me against the back of the door. A strong smell of alcohol hit me. "Sarah, you played me." In the faint light, I saw Julian's face clearly. Under his messy hair, his red eyes stared at me, dead serious. Questions came like a barrage. "When did that guy start hitting on you? What do you mean by giving my ring to him? You slept with me every day for a month, and you were planning to propose to someone else? These past few days, you flinched every time I touched you, like I was some kind of dirt. Was that because of him?" He leaned down, burying his head in my shoulder, laughing hysterically. "So you were saving yourself for him? Sarah, say something." My shoulder blades felt like they were about to break. I pushed him away with all my strength, desperately trying to control the emotions threatening to spill out, and spoke calmly. "I never said that ring was for you." Julian lifted his head from my shoulder. Those charming eyes that were always smiling were now wet and redder than ever. Like a volcano that had been accumulating pressure suddenly erupted. Julian violently grabbed my wrist and threw me onto the bed. He pinned my legs down with his knees and leaned over me. Only then did I panic, realizing that Julian, who had been drinking, was completely different from his usual self. I kicked at him, struggled desperately, but against the absolute difference in strength, I was just a tiny ant trying to shake a big tree. In that moment, my mind was blank, and I convulsed with pain. After a long time, it was over. Like a primal animal, Julian's consciousness returned. In the eerie silence, only his suppressed panting could be heard. After a long while, he shook his hand, pulled back the hand covering my eyes, and saw the tears endlessly flowing from my eyes. "Sister, I'm sorry, Sister, does it hurt?" My reply was a slap across his face, delivered with all my remaining strength. Julian's head snapped to the side, as if he were stunned. After a moment, he raised a hand to touch the bright red handprint on his face, licked the blood at the corner of his mouth, and said blankly, "I've lived for 23 years, and no one has ever hit me." I felt a sense of fear afterwards. With his background, why did I provoke him? I should have just pretended not to notice anything, and proposed honestly. So what if I heard him break up with me? So what if I was played like a fool? Anything was better than pushing him into a mad dog, getting bitten for no reason, and getting dirty. I reached for my phone, wanting to call the police. "I only let you hit me. Are you not angry anymore?" Julian suddenly grabbed my wrist and placed it against the other side of his face. His eyes drooped, his long lashes fluttered, and his voice turned soft as water. "If you're not angry, this side is okay too." He lifted his eyes, testing my expression, then continued, "Don't be with him, okay? That old guy, wearing those black-rimmed glasses, he's so lame. His skin isn't as smooth as mine, you can tell he's no good. I'm young and handsome, aren't I more fun than him?" I held my phone in silence for a long time before speaking. "Julian, are you sick?" I didn't understand. He was clearly a son of the city elite, yet instead of living a life of luxury, he chose to deceive my heart, and even invited a slap in the face. In just 7 hours, he would make a solemn promise to someone else, yet he was still saying such affectionate words. On the day of the engagement, Julian left early in the morning, instructing me, "Sister, I have a surprise for you tonight." I nodded. "Okay." He changed his shoes, opened the door, then turned back, emphasizing uneasily, 10 o'clock tonight, if I don't see you when I get back, I'll go crazy. He paused, his usually overly flippant charming eyes looking at me very seriously. "Don't play me again. I can't take it." I nodded again. After he left, I packed up and went to Capital City University as usual. In the afternoon, I changed into a trench coat and put on a mask. I grabbed my suitcase from the office and headed to the airport. The taxi drove down Central Avenue, passing Capital City's Liberty Plaza. Suddenly, outside the window, fireworks exploded on the side of the wide 10-lane road, accompanied by confetti. The driver, speaking with a local accent, marveled, "Who's celebrating AW? Edding? That's quite a display." Yes, the dark sky was as bright as day, so dazzling it made me close my eyes. The engagement banquet for the Jiang and Sterling families, held at the Jiang family's private estate. This place was originally a historic mansion belonging to a prince from the Qing dynasty. In the downtown district, a place where every inch of land was worth a fortune, you had to first pass through an avenue of towering trees, then through 3 heavily guarded high walls, before reaching the ancient, elegant pavilions. Everyone of significance in Capital City was gathered here today. After sunset, Julian finally finished the elaborate ceremony. He walked into the quiet courtyard, loosened his tie, and took out a cigarette pack. The bodyguard behind him naturally offered a lighter. The scent of nicotine didn't improve his irritable mood. What were those people talking about? 100 years of happiness, bearing children soon. Whether in sickness or in health, in poverty or in wealth, would you always love her? He vaguely felt the weight of marriage was heavier than he, at 23, had imagined. So heavy that once he carried it, he could never shake it off. He exhaled a smoke ring irritably. What the hell was going on? The woman he slept with every night should only be Sarah. "I told you, what kind of sister-in-law was that girl?" And I had to apologize. Suddenly, someone approached. It was Wang Ling, who had cursed Sarah earlier. The bodyguard took a step forward, but Julian motioned for him to stop. "He's already engaged to the Sterlings, and he's still clinging to that girl. He says he's all about pure love." Bullshit. Didn't give her a dime, let a girl support him for 3 years. Screw his pure love, he's more of a jerk than when I played with online celebrities. At least I paid, right? Wang Ling was complaining in a low voice on the phone, then chuckled to himself. Good tea. That girl flew to the US. I'd really love to see Julian's face when he finds out. The next second, a figure flashed past his eyes. Julian. Wang Ling stared blankly at the retreating back, his phone falling to the ground. That day, all the distinguished guests saw it. As the celebration fireworks lit up the sky, that heir of the Jiang family abandoned his newly engaged fiancée, drove a Maserati rapidly out of the private estate, heading north. The sky full of fireworks didn't capture his attention at all. Life at the GIAS Research Institute was busy and fulfilling. Here, I had the most advanced equipment for my research direction, ample research funds. I immersed myself in conducting experiments, writing reports, and attending academic conferences. With limited energy, I didn't allow myself to dwell on the memories, everything in that rented apartment. But one day, while chatting with Megan, she suddenly asked, "Sarah, do you regret it? If it weren't for that jerk, you would have been at GIAS 2 years ago." To her surprise, I said I didn't regret it. I understood myself too well. Beneath my aloof exterior was a pathological craving for intimacy. Otherwise, I wouldn't have fallen for Julian so easily. It's hard for people to change thought patterns developed since childhood. I chose to accept it. As for Julian, I just met the wrong person. But his deception and hurt wouldn't make me afraid to enter a new intimate relationship from now on. It was just that seeing Julian again was sooner than I expected. 4 months after arriving at GIAS, I achieved a research breakthrough and signed a contract with a company. I brought my team to the building where the contract negotiations were held. The general manager mentioned that the investor wanted to meet me alone to consult on some technical issues. The elevator went directly to the CEO's office on the top floor. The moment I pushed it open the door, I froze. In front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window, Julian sat in a wheelchair, wearing a blue and white striped hospital gown. When he turned to look at me, the sunlight hit his pale, handsome face. His slightly long, messy bangs were scattered across his forehead, and there were faint dark circles under his eyes. The bodyguard and general manager quickly left. In the vast office, only the two of us remained. Sister, I missed you so much. As soon as the door closed, Julian's expression instantly changed. He lowered his eyes, calling out pitifully. I never wanted to get engaged. It was a family-arranged engagement set by our elders, and I didn't agree. Look, he pointed to his leg in a cast. My grandfather almost broke my leg, and I still didn't agree to the engagement. At that time, I thought sister was still waiting for me at home. Julian might lose his leg in this life, he might lose his life, but sister, he must have you. As he spoke, he pushed his wheelchair closer. I pursed my lips. You can't fall into the same trap twice. He knew I was soft-hearted, not tough. I lifted my leg and sat on the leather sofa, slowly calming myself down. Mind if I smoke? Julian's expression was blank for a moment, then he nodded obediently. Sister, I really missed you so much. After Julian wheeled closer, he reached out and grabbed the hem of my suit jacket. I glanced at him, then looked away, saying flatly, Julian, those 3 years, they're over for me. Julian's eyes were red-rimmed, and the knuckles of the hand gripping my jacket were white. Is sister still angry? But when I met you, I was only 20. Too young, didn't understand anything. It's not like that now. I wish I could tear my heart out and show it to sister. Saying the last part, he naturally took the hand I had placed on my leg, and softened his tone. Sister, you were the one who brought the little puppy home back then, you were the one who said you'd raise the little puppy for a lifetime. Yes, I said that. I suddenly interrupted him. Julian, how could you bring up my old words again, stabbing another knife into my heart? I looked down at him sideways and said, but I got tired of raising it. A bad dog full of tricks. I don't want it anymore, okay? Julian's face turned incredibly ugly for a moment, then quickly returned to its pitiful look, asking reluctantly, then what were those 3 years? Finding ways to learn your favorite comfort food, taking care of you when you were sick without daring to close my eyes, serving you in bed every day. What do those 3 years mean to you? I could have elaborated on the efforts I put in those 3 years, the hurt I suffered from the deception. But I didn't want to say it, I didn't want to give him the satisfaction, and I didn't want to hurt myself anymore. I just curled my lips, blew a smoke ring at him, and replied dismissively, consider it a win for me. I treated the highly regarded Julian from the city elite like a dog, played with him for 3 years, and then kicked him out completely. I waited for Julian to expose his mischievous and selfish nature, but he didn't. Pain flashed across his face, he gasped heavily a few times, and his grip on my hand tightened. Let go. No. I didn't have time to play childish games with him. My face turned cold, and I pressed the burning cigarette butt onto his hand, where the veins were bulging. Julian didn't say anything, his lips pressed together. Only when his hand was bleeding from the burn did he narrow his charming eyes and ask with a smile, does that make you feel better, sister? He took out the cigarette pack from my suit pocket, opened it with one hand, and took out a cigarette. The cigarette went out, it wasn't enough pain. Sister, let me light you a real one. Looking at the cigarette offered to my mouth, I was silent for a moment. I got up, struggled free forcefully, and walked out. Don't bother me again. Stay as far away from me as possible from now on. Behind me, Julian chased after me in his wheelchair, asking, if you don't want me, do you want my money? I have so much money. If you want it, this building can be yours tomorrow. I didn't stop. Behind me, he was still rambling, you can open your own research institute. You won't have to deal with troublesome applications. You can research whatever you want. You won't have to worry about performance reviews. After all, you'll be the boss. Enough. I interrupted him, the pent-up emotions finally surfacing. I couldn't let it go. I tore open those wounds that had already healed and exposed them for him to see. Julian, you're so rich, can you erase my memory? Make me forget that someone casually gave his fiancée a bracelet worth tens of millions, while laughing as he watched me work 3 jobs a day just to buy him a wedding ring. Forget that someone planned to pretend to break up when I proposed, to trick me into crying, and then enjoy the pitiful sight of me begging to get back together. Forget that someone said, just playing around, are you really going to marry her? After saying that, I opened the door and walked out. Behind me, the last trace of color drained from Julian's face. After that, I had a long period of peaceful life. Even overly lucky. The projects I applied for were almost always quickly approved. The rented apartment had a sewage backup issue, and the usually quite difficult landlord became very agreeable, fixing it the same day and even having the rent because of it. I was so lucky, I casually scratched a lottery ticket at the mall and won over $1 million. 3 years later, I returned home. Sitting in a taxi, I looked out the window. Capital city had changed significantly. Old, dilapidated buildings were torn down, replaced by towering skyscrapers. Suddenly, a worn-out little building caught my eye. A familiar iron gate, a convenience store sign. The driver also started discussing it. It's strange, I heard a rich person used to live there. They bought it and won't let it be renovated. TSK, if that piece of land was sold, it would be worth at least 100 million. Rich people are really weird. They live in mansions, but they still miss living in a rundown place. I smiled with relief, pulled back my gaze, and continued replying to emails on my laptop. As I lowered my head, a Bentley drove past in the opposite lane, heading directly towards the dilapidated little building.